Did you know that one of the youngest convicted murderers in modern history was just 10 years old? That's right. In today's episode, we will delve into the world of dark childhoods and terrible deeds, because not every kid's biggest worry is homework or chores. From cold-blooded murders to manipulative tactics that could give seasoned criminals a run for their money, we're examining the most evil kid in the world. Without further ado, let's dive in. Ashley Martinson. Have you ever wondered how seemingly ordinary lives can take a turn for the unimaginable? 2015, a year that would forever mark Ashley Ann as the subject of international headlines. What did she do? It was the day after her 17th birthday when Ashley Ann Rose Martinson committed a crime that defies belief. She tragically ended the lives of her own mother and stepfather. I know, it's a chilling revelation. The world couldn't look away as her case grabbed headlines on an international scale. And believe it or not, she later admitted guilt to not just one, but 2 counts of second-degree intentional homicide. The result? A daunting 23-year prison sentence that would reshape her life forever. But rewind a bit, and you'll find a seemingly ordinary life. Martinson lived under one roof with her mother, stepfather, 2 stepsisters, and a half-sister before that dark day. According to her younger siblings, Martinson was allegedly verbally abused by her stepfather, Thomas "Tony" Ayres, leading up to his murder. Ayres had a history of verbal and physical abuse towards his wife and biological daughters. Shockingly, Martinson also claimed that she had been physically abused and raped for 2 years by a former boyfriend of her mother's. Experts believed that she had post-traumatic stress disorder and depression. It's crucial to note that Martinson's stepfather's criminal history included convictions for kidnapping, sexual assault, and domestic abuse, among other offenses. Even though he was legally barred from possessing firearms, he still had an assortment of loaded guns readily available in the house. It all started when Ashley Ann Rose Martinson's mother and stepfather stumbled upon her secret relationship with a 22-year-old man named Ryan Sisko. Words were exchanged, and the situation escalated to the point where her parents fired off messages threatening legal repercussions against Sisko. The tension was palpable. That night, she wrote a disturbing message on her Facebook page expressing her desire to kill her stepfather. This is what she wrote: "He's gonna kill her if she doesn't leave soon. I want to kill him so f***ing bad. Take one of his guns and blow his f***ing brains out." The following day, Martinson witnessed her stepfather beating her mother, and in a fit of rage, she shot and killed him with a shotgun. When her mother came to investigate the gunshots, Martinson killed her with a knife. After the killings, Martinson locked her younger siblings in a closet with food. One of Martinson's siblings saw Thomas's body and didn't believe her when she denied killing him.
And how did you stab her? I don't know what you mean. Where did you stab her?
I don't know. I just started stabbing and fighting with my life. I was so scared.
Martinson's tale took a turn when her younger sibling's police statement clashed with hers. She later said the gun was for a suicide attempt, but Thomas Ayres interrupted her. The capture of Martinson and Sisko in Indiana came after her eldest stepsister alerted the police. In court, Martinson faced first-degree homicide and false imprisonment, but settled for second-degree murder in a 2016 plea deal. She got 23 years in prison and 17 more under supervision. The prosecution wanted 40 years. Her defense argued for 8, citing family abuse. Judge Michael Bloom felt her past wasn't enough to justify her acts. Now, she's in Taycheedah Correctional, Wisconsin, claiming to be happy and safe, even earning her high school diploma. In 2017, she tried for a lighter sentence, but was denied. In 2019, her new trial appeal also failed. Anissa Weier and Morgan Geyser. Oh man, the Slender Man stabbing? That's one freaky tale that's hard to forget. It was in Waukesha, Wisconsin in 2014. 2 12-year-old girls, Anissa Weier and Morgan Geyser, hatched this horrifying plan to win over, get this, a fictional character named Slender Man. Yep, you heard me right. A fictional dude who's like your worst nightmare on stilts. He's got this featureless white face and is as skinny as a twig. The Slender Man character started as a creepy photo on the Something Awful forums, but he got his own life, fan fiction, artwork, the whole shebang. People took this thing and ran with it, creating creepy stories. So, back to the girls. They tricked their buddy Peyton Leutner into a game of hide and seek, but this is no child's play. They take her deep into David's Park, a forest near Waukesha, and stab her 19 times. Can you believe it? 19 times, all to please this made-up monster who supposedly hangs out in wooded areas. It's like a horror story that got way too real. The attackers held down Peyton Leutner and viciously stabbed her a staggering 19 times across her body, using a blade that measured 5 inches. Miraculously, she survived, despite 2 of those stabs hitting vital organs. So get this, Peyton Leutner managed to pull herself to a nearby road after enduring that horrifying ordeal. There, a cyclist spotted her and made that life-saving 911 call. Now, flip the script to Anissa Weier and Morgan Geyser. About 5 hours later, they're found hanging out near a furniture store off Interstate 94, almost 5 miles away. And guess what was with them? The very knife they'd used. They were on a mission, you see. They believed they would meet the mythical Slender Man at his so-called Slender Mansion, a whopping 200 miles away in Nicolet National Forest. During interrogations, Morgan showed zero remorse, while Anissa seemed somewhat guilty, but both believed their ghastly deed was a sort of tribute to Slender Man. And Peyton, she left the hospital just a week after surviving this unthinkable act. Now, let's get into the legal roller coaster on which Anissa Weier and Morgan Geyser found themselves. These girls got slapped with some serious charges. I'm talking about attempted first-degree homicide level serious. In 2015, the judge chucked their kill or be killed defense right out of the courtroom. In May 2023, Geyser tried for a conditional release, but thought better of it and pulled the plug in August. Switching gears to Weier, she initially pleaded not guilty because of a mental defect in 2016, but then, bam, she flips the script a year later, pleading guilty to a toned-down charge of attempted second-degree homicide. The jury, convinced she was mentally ill, sent her to Winnebago Mental Health Institute for 25 years. But hold on, the plot twists in 2021. The judge says she's not a danger anymore and grants her conditional freedom. Fast forward to September 2023, and the GPS shackles? Gone. Yeah, you heard that right. Weier's got the most freedom she's had since this whole nightmare started. Is this the beginning of a new chapter for her? Only time will tell. Kristen Pittman. In 2005, Kristen Avery Pittman faced the harsh gavel of justice, convicted for the murder of her grandparents, Joe and Joy. Pittman. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment crime. It happened in 2001 when Kristen was just a 12-year-old kid. At that tender age, Kristen had already run away from home twice, dabbled in suicidal thoughts, and even had a run-in with the cops. She was sent to a facility designed for kids with, let's say, challenging backgrounds. There, she spent 6 days and got slapped with a Paxil prescription for what they called mild depression. So here's where the story takes a real twist. After being shipped off from sunny Oxford, Florida, to live with her grandparents in Chester, South Carolina, Kristen found some stability, right? Remember, she had a mom who'd deserted her twice and a dad she described as abusive. Here's where it gets medical. Her doctor in Chester didn't have any Paxil samples, so what does he do? Hands her Zoloft instead. Both are SSRIs or selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, but switching them out like that, it's not the best idea. Kristen starts feeling off almost immediately, with her sister even calling her manic. She's got this weird burning sensation all over her body that needs pain meds to control. And what's the doc's solution? Crank up that Zoloft dosage from 25 to 50 milligrams per day. And let me tell you, Zoloft's got a laundry list of potential side effects in kids, including but not limited to aggravated depression, abnormal dreams, and even hallucinations. So yeah, it was like adding fuel to an already raging fire. On November 28th, 2001, Kristen's day was already spiraling out of control. She's getting into fights on the school bus, choking another student, and even disrupting a piano player at her church. That night, after her grandfather disciplines her with a paddling for trying to leave her room, she does something unimaginable. She goes into her grandparents' bedroom and uses their shotgun, the one they taught her how to use, to end their lives. And it doesn't stop there. She sets the house on fire using a candle and some paper. She grabs the car keys, takes her grandparents' firearms, her dog, and a measly $33 before hitting the road. But she doesn't get far. 2 counties away, she's caught after getting stuck. Initially, she spins this whole tale about being kidnapped by a large black male who had killed her grandparents and set the house on fire, but eventually she fesses up and chillingly says her grandparents deserved what they got. Remember that this happened just 2 days after her Zoloft dosage was doubled. Kristen's trial commenced on January 31st, 2005, 3 years after the shocking crime. The courtroom was buzzing with complex issues, from Kristen's mental state due to her age to the role Zoloft may have played in her actions. The question also arose, was this a case of murder or some lesser form of homicide? But as the trial went on, the narrative honed in on the Zoloft factor. Prosecutors aimed to show that Kristen was fully aware of the moral gravity of her actions, citing her premeditated plans to escape the fire she set and her calculated getaway. Fast forward to February 15th, 2005, Kristen was found guilty and hit with a 30-year sentence. But in December 2010, she struck a plea deal, pleading guilty to voluntary manslaughter. Her new sentence, 25 years, including time already served. While inside, Pittman transitioned and legally changed her name to Kristen Avery Pittman. Amarjeet Sada. Now guys, this one's a chilling tale you won't believe. Meet Amarjeet Sada, reputedly the world's youngest serial killer. He's racked up 3 alleged kills, all before his 9th birthday. Amarjeet hails from a little village in Bihar, India called Mushahar. Life's tough. His parents are scraping by, and when he was 7, they had another baby girl, adding another mouth to feed. Amarjeet was kind of the quiet type, you know? He liked solo adventures, climbing trees, and just wandering around the neighborhood. So one day, his aunt drops by. She's got a new gig in the city and must leave her little one with the family for a bit. Off she goes, and Amarjeet's mom heads to the local market. Here's where it gets dark. Amarjeet's left babysitting his younger sis and cousin. According to reports, he starts messing with the baby, pinching, slapping, and finds it funny when the baby cries. But then, he takes it to another level, a horrific level. He puts his hands around the baby's throat, cutting off its breath. The baby starts crying again, gasping for air, and we're talking about an 8-year-old kid here. It makes you wonder, what could drive someone so young to act so terrifyingly? After taking his cousin's life, Amarjeet hid the infant's body under grass and returned home. His mom was horrified when he later spilled the beans about his actions. His dad gave him a physical punishment, but unbelievably, they didn't contact the police and instead fabricated a story for the aunt. Amarjeet's next grim act involved his 8-month-old sister. He strangled her while their parents were asleep. His uncle noted that some in the family knew about these events, but brushed them off as family issues. No one reported anything until Amarjeet committed another horrifying act in 2007, this time on a 6-month-old girl named Khushbu. Her mum told authorities she had left the baby at a school and found her missing upon return. A few hours later, Amarjeet confessed to his grim act and led the locals to where he had buried her. Finally apprehended by the police, Amarjeet confessed to the earlier murders of his sister and cousin. Inspector Shatrughan Kumar mentioned that all the killings had eerie similarities. While detained, Amarjeet remained eerily smiling but silent. A psychologist labeled him a sadist who takes joy in causing pain. Per Indian laws, he couldn't be jailed but was placed in a juvenile home until he was 18. Psychological evaluations suggested he had conduct disorders, and he was subsequently placed in a facility in Munga. Disturbingly, he was released at 16, and his current location is unknown. As of 2023, Amarjeet should be about 23 years old, living under a new identity. Gerald Milton, the Omaha incident. Now, let's talk about a narrative that is nothing short of astonishing. In 2015, two guys, Jamie Mel Ray and Charles Fisher, thought they were about to pull off a smooth cannabis exchange in the heart of Omaha, Nebraska. Yeah, well, not so much. The moment they set foot in Miller Park, they got a surprise that no one saw coming. 3 children jumped on them. Jamie Mel takes fatal bullets to his head and neck, and Charles miraculously gets away with just a shoulder wound. But here's the kicker. This wasn't a random ambush by just any children. We're talking about Gerald Milton, a preteen at just 12 years old, his 17-year-old sibling, and another 15-year-old accomplice. And their master plan? Swipe some goods from the dealers and walk off with an easy payday. Fast forward, and Gerald pulls a vanishing act right after this horror show. The kid is apprehended in Minneapolis, miles away from the crime scene. And let's not forget, there was a staggering $25,000 reward for any information leading to his capture. Gerald's dad chimes in, saying his boy might have been there, but he didn't pull that trigger. Young Gerald pleads not guilty when the court date rolls around, while his older brother Jamar isn't so lucky. He ends up with a first-degree murder conviction and the potential of 58 to 82 years of staring at concrete walls. His earliest parole option? A soul-crushing 34 years later. But that's not the end of the rabbit hole. Jarrell has also been slapped with rape charges in South Dakota. This kid's record lists juvenile system failures and probation violations from 2015. It's like he's been on a revolving door of probations, curfews, and halfway homes, including the famed Boys Town, yet he keeps slipping through the cracks. And get this, he had a chance for a leave to his mother's house in South Dakota in late 2019, but guess what happens next? Yep, he lands back in the clink. A court directive was that he would be shipped off to a CUNY YRTC program to finish his probation, but that's not happening anytime soon. Why? Because the latest reports indicate that Gerald Milton is cooling his heels in a South Dakota jail, done with playing games in the juvenile arena. Now, he's graduated to adult prison, so the burning question is, what does this tell us about a juvenile justice system that's not working? Nehemiah Grigo, the tragic shooting in South Valley, New Mexico, 2013. Have you heard about the tragic shooting in South Valley, New Mexico in 2013? On the night of January 19th, 5 people were found dead inside a house by police. Indeed, the motivations behind such horrific acts are often hard to fathom. In this case, a .22 caliber rifle was used to kill a woman and 3 children, while an AR-15 style rifle is suspected to have been used to fatally shoot an adult male upon returning home. Nehemiah Grigo, a 15-year-old boy, shot and killed his parents and 3 siblings at their house. It all started when he shot his mother with a .22 rifle around midnight. His younger brother Zephaniah woke up, and Nehemiah told him he had shot their mother, but his brother initially didn't believe him until Nehemiah showed him her blood-stained face. Nehemiah then shot Zephaniah with the same rifle. He went into the bedroom shared by his 2 younger sisters, who were crying, and fatally shot them each in the head. Grigo then went downstairs to wait for his father to return home from his shift at a homeless shelter. When his father arrived, Nehemiah shot him multiple times with an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle with a scope. According to his statement to the police, Nehemiah had been having suicidal and homicidal thoughts, had obtained the guns from his parents' closet, had mailed a photo of his dead mother to his girlfriend, and had intended to drive off and use the guns to kill more individuals, and ideally die in a gun battle with police. In New Mexico, individuals his age who face first-degree murder charges are tried as adults. However, they can't be sentenced to death or given an automatic strict life sentence without the possibility of parole. Initially, Nehemiah deceived his girlfriend and church leaders, saying his parents had died in a car crash. He later claimed he found their bodies and left the scene. Eventually, he admitted to the killings. Initially, Grigo received a juvenile sentence, but before reaching 21, prosecutors convinced the court that he had not undergone rehabilitation and remained a threat to society. Consequently, a judge imposed a life sentence on him. Grigo's legal representatives appealed this decision, arguing that the conviction constituted cruel and unusual punishment, but the court dismissed both claims. In 2019, a district court judge determined that he could not be treated as a juvenile and sentenced him as an adult in the state prison system. Grigo, now 25, will become eligible for parole at 52. Tyler Hadley. The Unfathomable Crime of Tyler Hadley, 2011. On July 16, 2011, in Port St. Lucie, Florida, 17-year-old Tyler Hadley allegedly killed his parents, Blake Hadley, 54, and Mary Jo Hadley, 47. Weeks before carrying out the act, Tyler had already decided how to commit the crime. He even confided his sinister plans to a friend, pointing out that throwing a big party after killing one's parents was unprecedented. Earlier that day, Tyler ambiguously posted on his Facebook wall, "Party at my crib tonight, maybe." When his parents came home, he took measures to neutralize potential obstacles. He hid their phones and locked up their black Labrador, who he believed might try to protect them, in a closet. Tyler took 3 ecstasy pills shortly before 5 p.m. on the evening of July 16, 2011, and stood behind his mother, Mary Jo, while she worked on her computer in the family room. He began attacking his mother with the back end of a claw hammer. Hearing the screams, his father raced out of the bedroom to investigate. Blake froze as he witnessed Tyler abusing his mother. Tyler then used the hammer to kill his father. He took their bodies into the master bedroom after killing them and spent 3 hours cleaning up the blood and throwing home things that reminded him of them on top of their bodies. Tyler invited people to his party for the first time around 12:15 p.m. on the day of the killings, just hours before he murdered his parents. He paid for the party with his dead parents' credit cards. He was caught at an ATM while withdrawing cash from the accounts and then picked up several friends. Around 60 people attended the party that night, and several are said to have smelled dead bodies. Tyler told numerous individuals about what he had done during the party. He even admitted the murder on a brief walk with a friend, Michael Mandel. Mandel returned to the party and came upon the lifeless bodies of Blake and Mary Jo inside the main bedroom. Instead of immediately departing from the scene, Mandel remained there for an extended period, spending hours in the company of Tyler, even capturing a photograph together. It was only 4 hours later that Mandel eventually left the party, at which point he contacted a local hotline dedicated to reporting criminal incidents to inform them about the deaths he had witnessed. Then, word of mouth disseminated the information about the crime. The following morning, Hadley was taken into custody. Tyler was 17 years old when the killings occurred and was detained on accusations of murder. He was condemned to life in prison 3 years later by a court. Hadley contemplated taking his own life had the police not arrived. He had a stash of Percocet tablets stored in his room, but for the moment, whether it was ecstasy, the party, or the murder, he was in a good mood. At 4:40 a.m., just as police were going to his house, he posted one final time on his wall, "Party at my house again, HMU." Eric Smith. On August 2nd, 1993, in Steuben County, New York, killer Eric M. Smith, then 13, tortured and killed Derek Joseph Roby, a 4-year-old boy. Smith, then 13 years old, rode his bike to a day camp in a nearby park on August 2nd, 1993. Derek Roby, 4, was traveling by himself to the same camp. Roby was enticed into a nearby forested area by Smith after he noticed him. Smith raped him with a small stick, dropped a giant boulder on his head, and strangled him there. Smith treated Roby's raw wounds by pouring Kool-Aid into Roby's lunchbox. The cause of death was determined to result from blunt trauma to the head, combined with asphyxia. Around 11 a.m., Doreen, Roby's mother, headed to the park expecting to pick up her son, only to discover that Roby hadn't shown up. After a 4-hour search, they found Roby's body. The case captured the nation's attention, mainly due to the age of both the victim and the perpetrator. On August 8, 1993, Smith confessed to his mother that he had killed Derek. The Smith family promptly informed the authorities that same night. Subsequently, Smith underwent extensive medical examinations by specialists from both sides, including evaluations of brain function and hormone levels. However, these tests failed to provide any explanation for his violent actions. According to court records, Smith was a solitary individual who frequently endured bullying due to his distinctive features, low-set ears, thick glasses, red hair, and freckles. A defense psychiatrist diagnosed Smith with an intermittent explosive disorder, a mental condition known for causing violent and unpredictable behavior. Nevertheless, the prosecution's expert contended that this disorder was rarely observed in individuals of Smith's age. In August of 1994, Smith, at 14, faced a trial as an adult and received a sentence of 9 years to life in prison. Initially, he was placed in a juvenile detention center, but after turning 21, he was transferred to an adult prison. Nearly 9 years after committing his crime, Smith underwent his first parole hearing, but his request for parole was denied. Smith claimed he had transformed into a different person thanks to years of therapy. However, despite his hopes, parole continued to elude him, being denied repeatedly until October 2021. Fast forward to that moment, Smith, now 41 years old, appeared before the board for the 11th time. During this parole hearing, Smith shared his aspirations for the future and even mentioned having a fiancée.
I want to, get married, raise a family, hold down, a job, pursue the American dream.
Ultimately, the board decided to grant Smith a chance at parole. However, his release was postponed for several months until he secured approved housing. Finally, in February 2023, after serving 28 years, the 42-year-old was released. Today, he enjoys his freedom as a Queens, New York resident. John Venables and Robert Thompson. On February 12, 1993, two 10-year-old boys named Robert Thompson and John Venables kidnapped James Patrick Bulger, a 2-year-old from Kirkby, Merseyside, England, tortured and killed him. For the day, Thompson and Venables were observed stealing various things, such as candy, batteries, a troll figurine, and a container of blue Humbrol craft paint. Later that afternoon, James Bulger and his mother Denise from Kirkby visited the New Strand shopping centre. While in the AR Tim's meat market on the mall's ground level at about 3:40 p.m., Denise, who had momentarily released her son's hand to complete her purchase, discovered that he was no longer beside her. Thompson and Venables had approached James Bulger, grabbed his hand, and led him away from the shopping area. Bulger had facial injuries when Thompson and Venables placed him on his head along the Leeds and Liverpool Canal, about a quarter mile, 400 meters, from the New Strand shopping centre. Bulger was joked about being pushed into the canal by the boys. A witness claimed the youngster was crying his eyes out when he saw Bulger at the canal. The youngsters walked across Liverpool for 2.5 miles, 4 kilometers. About 38 individuals spotted them, but most onlookers took no action to stop them. 2 people challenged Thompson and Venables, but they either pretended that Bulger was their brother or that he was lost and that they were escorting him to a police station. The boys took Bulger into a pet store at one point, from which they were expelled. The boys eventually made it to Walton. They paused, then led Bulger up a steep bank to a railway line close to the disused Walton and Amp Anfield railway station, next to Walton Park Cemetery, despite Walton Lane Police Station being across the street. One of the boys threw the blue paint that the boys had earlier shoplifted into Bulger's left eye. They trampled him underfoot, stamped on him, and hurled stones and bricks at him. Batteries were put in Bulger's mouth, and maybe his anus, though none were discovered there. The boys then hit Bulger with a 10 kilograms, 22 pounds, railway fish plate. The impact of the bar on his head caused 10 fractures in his skull. According to pathologist Alan Williams, Bulger sustained 42 injuries, none of which could be pinpointed as the fatal blow. In the hopes that a train would strike James Bulger and deem his death an accident, Thompson and Venables placed him across the railroad tracks and weighted his head down with debris. A train split his body in half after they fled the site. A group of children found Bulger's decapitated body 2 days later. On November 24, 1993, John Venables and Robert Thompson were both convicted for the kidnapping and killing of James Bulger. Following an 8-year imprisonment for their roles in the tragic case, the perpetrators were set free under a life license. To shield them from potential retaliatory violence, they were given new identities. Ricky and Danny Preddy. In a heart-wrenching incident that shook the nation, on November 27, 2000, 10-year-old Damilola Taylor, a schoolboy from Nigeria, fell victim to a fatal attack in the heart of London, thrusting his tragic story into the spotlight as one of the United Kingdom's most widely publicized murders. When they attacked Damilola, Danny and Ricky Preddy were only 12 and 13 years old. To walk home that day, Taylor left Peckham Library in southeast London at 4:51 p.m. He walked away and was seen on CCTV. When reaching the North Peckham estate, he sustained a gash to his left thigh, severing an artery. He staggered to a stairwell, fell, and in about 30 minutes bled to almost death. While traveling to the hospital in an ambulance, he was still alive. Danny and Ricky Preddy, who belonged to the Young Peckham Boys gang, terrorized South London's neighborhoods. Danny should have had a 24-hour curfew at a social service home during Damilola's murder because he rarely left monitoring or custody. He was given a supervision order 4 weeks after the murder for 2 incidents of racially aggravated assault and an assault with the intent to rob. job. He disobeyed the command. Ricky, who was 13 at the time of the murder, had a history of thievery and violence. Additionally, he was expected to be in charge when the schoolboy was killed. It took 6 years and 3 trials after Damilola's death to find and convict his killers. So, you might wonder, where are Danny and his brother now? Get this. Danny walked free in 2011, getting an early release after serving just 5 of his 8-year sentence. His brother, he got out even earlier on parole, just 4 years into his 8-year term. But hold on, it doesn't end there. He was back behind bars in March 2011 for breaching his license conditions, and while he was in there, he got into a fight with another inmate, but a parole board decided to let him out on January 25th, 2012. Can you believe it? Just over 2 weeks later, he's back in jail again for breaking parole, hanging out in places he's not supposed to, and visiting old gang friends. Now, fast forward to November 2019. Ricky's cruising through Wembley when the cops signal him to pull over. What does he do? He reverses into the police car, injures a female officer, and then speeds off. They eventually catch him, and now he's got another 4 years in prison and a 12-year driving ban waiting for him once he's out. Unbelievable, right? So, there you have it. We've all wondered about the nature of evil. Is it born or is it made? Comment down below and click on the cards showing on your screen for more videos like this.